right, guys, I missed yesterday. The electric was out in my mountain getaway, so there was no work for Curtis. I'm behind a little bit, but I will catch up. I had a couple things I said I'm going to do. The chop's going to be next. I got a good one here. Dundee Dolphin commenter that I've talked to and actually become friends with had a great idea. He pointed to me to a Todd McShay video, and Todd McShay broke down the top teams and how they designed their teams through the draft, what their focus was. And he's like, maybe this would be a good idea for a topic. And it really was. So I'm going to go over Philly, Chiefs, and the Ravens and compare them to the Dolphins to show you not so much what we did in the past. It's done. But to show you what these teams who are stacked with talent, who have had lots of success, they have done, what we did or didn't do, but more importantly, what we got to do this season. With 10 picks, if you look at those 10 picks and you see what these other teams have done with their picks, you're going to see that a lot of stuff can get done this season if Grier does not Grier. So I think it was a great idea. McShay did an awesome job. I'll see if I can find a link and maybe put it in the bottom. Don't quote me on that. But that's what I'm going to do today with a little touch on about the staff thing. There's a bunch of staff stuff going around, and I want to touch on that just a little bit. So I'm also going to add a little bridge between the staff and the drafting process with what Ray Lewis said about the Dolphins. Some people say, oh, he's a killer. He's not. Other people say he's awesome. It's not the point. Just listen to it. Does it resonate? And this guy knows football, whether he's good guy, bad guy, did something, didn't do something. So I just want to clear that up. Now, thing came out that Darren Rizzi didn't even get a call from the Dolphins. Guys, we burn bridges. We're like an arsonist when it comes to good coaches and good staff. We just burn relationships. And it's usually with a certain kind of guy, usually the kind of guys that are kind of hard-nosed, tough guys that aren't a yes man. I mean, Adam Gase was given a 21-gun salute when he left. Crazy Gase. But there's other guys that barely get a blip on a radar. So Darren Rizzi didn't even get a contact, and I think the bridge is burned there because you would definitely contact him if there was any kind of relationship, and it was zero. Now, another one is we got his replacement, the guy we got that we could have got him is Craig Ackerman, special teams coordinator. I don't know anything about special teams. I literally don't know anything. I saw some people, Steve Malloy put a list out, the special teams rankings he had was average to poor, but then Al from 3 yards per carry said he liked the PFF special teams grades better, and they were pretty good. I don't know. You might as well talk to me about underwater basket weaving. I'd probably have more knowledge on that than special teams. So it is what it is. I don't know. He's a guy. He's better than Grossman. I like Rizzi better. So there you go. So that would be that. And then the next little bit we got here, Raiders interviewed Dolphins QB coach, passing game coordinator Rizzi Bevell today for the offensive coordinator per sources. Bevell and Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl together in Seattle. Now a possible reunion in Las Vegas. I think it's higher than possible, much higher. Bevell's got a great reputation, and there's a connection there. I'm not saying it's a done deal, but I think it's a really good chance. And that would hurt us. He's been a good coach. He's been one of the good coaches. Contrary to what we were told about Frank Smith, who is getting no interviews, and that says a lot. So I think this is bad news for us, but I think the more I think about it, Weaver is going to stay with us. I think they're going to hire, the offensive coordinator from the Eagles, who was with the Cowboys. I think that's who the Saints are going to hire. It'd be a long shot now. So I think we're going to keep Weaver, but we're likely going to end up losing Bevell and, unfortunately, keeping Frank Smith, who I don't like. I think there's something really creepy about him. So that'd be that. All right. So anyway, let's get into it. First, let's start with a Ray Lewis little speech. Let's hit it off and see what he says.
It's a lot. It's not as if I haven't been through it myself. Sometimes you got to go through these rebuilding phases.
So the first part, he says, you go through a rebuilding phase. We are rebuilding. So you'll say, duh, Curtis, duh. But you got to understand, the previous build has failed if you've got to rebuild. So all that capital, all those intentions, all that talk went flushed, and now we're rebuilding. But if we're rebuilding, Ross knows it, Grier knows it, McDaniel knows it. I don't know. For me, it says they're going to give him 2 years because it's a rebuild. So I just wanted to get into that little part there.
I think we have a lot of rock stars, superstars, right? I would take more chemistry than I would take rock stars. You know, give me people I can get to work together, and then it all pans itself out.
See, he said it's great having stars, but people that work together. There's some big names here and have been here that don't do that. And you need a team. And Hill's so talented, he's so great. Yeah, but if the team is suffering, then maybe that's not such a great idea. Because it's a very negative thing when you go back to the ping pong table. People are talking about, the Dolphins undisciplined because of a ping pong table. Then it disappears, and he's like, see how bold McDaniel was? And McDaniel's like, oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden a new ping pong table comes in, and Hill's like, I just was buying a new ping pong. Man, look like a jackass. You got to move off Hill. He's just not the kind of guy you build around unless you've got it all together and a lot of leaders to keep him in check. And we don't.
They got so many personalities, so many people, and then so many directions that they really don't know which. Like when you think of the Dolphins, what's the identity? Speed? Okay, great. But that's a tangible thing. That's a talent. I think community, what does it mean to be as a team? When we come in there, who's the leader? There's no defined leader. So. And
again, he says, what do you think of with the Dolphins? It's speed. Okay, that's a trait. But what do you see from them? And I think you could say from what Hill's saying, Elliott was saying, Poy was saying, Ramsey's, and we all saw, we're soft. We're fast and soft. And so he's really telling us the core of this team, whether from the construction standpoint and from the team chemistry standpoint, is, and we got to rebuild. So we got 10 picks. Let's see if we can do it. But let me show you quickly what we had and what the big players are doing. Here's the Chiefs. Green boxes, goes from 2016 here. All the green boxes are players that played substantial reps. The purple boxes are trench players, offensive, defense. The dark blue color is tight end or fullback because they're not full trench players, but they are secondary elements of note. And then the light blue is linebackers. Linebackers are a skill position, but they're also box and trench players. I mean, sometimes you got guys that just drop in coverage. Sometimes you got guys that just, they're run stoppers. But when you're adding linebackers, that's working on the box and it's an extension of the trench. And then orange would be quarterbacks. So you could see, look at all these guys from the trenches or extensions of the trenches, the KC drafts, and look how many of them work. First 5 picks from this year all had substantial reps. 3 O-linemen this season and a tight end. Fewer skill positions. 2023, you could see that. 5 of the 7 players they drafted, substantial reps. You got a D-E-O-L, D-E-D-T, 4 out of your 7 trenches. 2022, everyone but one, Kennard, has put substantial. And when I say substantial reps, I'm saying a little bit more than 7 games a year. So you're like a quality backup, a backup that got enough snaps. It was a little touch and go. Sometimes they lent just to put guys on, even for us. Unless you were totally unused, I didn't put your name on there. But here, this was a little bit more of a skills draft, DE, LB, and a tackle. But every year you're seeing offensive linemen. A lot of skills positions that year. But then you go to 21, 4 out of the 6 substantial stars, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphreys, and Trey Smith, all big-time players. That was a great draft. LB, OL, DE, tight end, OL. That's 5 out of 6 players of the trenches. 25 of your 6 guys, substantial reps. This was a little bit balanced. DE, tackle, and LB, so it was a little bit more to the skills. Then 2019, Every player contributed. But this year was a more skill year, but they still drafted a DT and a guard. So it was 2-4. But then 2018, everyone but 2. So 4 out of your 2, still a good hit rate, contributed substantial reps. 2 DTs, DE, and OL. So it was 4 out of 6. Then 2017, everybody but McQuay contributed. Got Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt. And you got a quarterback, DE and LB, so it was slanted towards the skills with the quarterback in the mix. And then 16, not as big a hit, but more picks than usual. But you got Tyreek Hill, and you got Chris Jones, Robinson Murray, pretty darn good. So it's 4 out of 7 that are playing, but your DT, guard, QB, and DE, so 3 trench players hit. And then 1 skill, big part skill. So then you go to the Eagles, and you see here 24. They had a lot of picks this year. So they had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks. 7 out of 9 contributed substantial reps. D, LB. I should have put the LB in a blue over there, so I screwed that up. OL and OL. 2 OLs, 1 DE. More skills this season, but then you go to the following season. Excellent draft again. 5 out of the 7 contributed. DL, LB, OL. You got another QB, and then you got a DE. So it was 4 out of 7, and 1 being a QB. 22. You got 4 out of 5 that contributed. You got a DT, OL, LB, DET, all trench or extension trench draft. Then you go to 21. Everybody but 1. It was a darn good. Landon Dickerson, Devonta Smith, Gainwell. I mean, you got some good picks here. But look, right again, OL, DL, DL, DE, DE. All trenches, and even 3 of you, those picks are deep trenches with the offensive line and DEs. You'd figure that all these picks they would stop doing, but they don't. Go back to the next year. I guess a good one too. Rieger, Hurts. Just go but you're getting substantial reps from all these guys. So you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you saw out of that 10, 8 getting substantial reps. QB pick, LB, G, LB, T, and DE. So it was balanced with the QB would tip towards the box, the trenches, and the physical. But this is a clear theme. Then you go to 19, Dillard, good pick. Sanders, good pick. Only 2 out of 3 that year, but tackle, DE, and QB. Didn't plan out, but the QB. But you notice how they keep hitting at this QB. Even after they drafted 1. I mean, it's only 6, but they're still shooting a little bit. 18, all the picks come through. Goddard, Mailata, Sweat. Really good draft. Tight end, DE, tackle, 4 5 on the trenches. This one was a good draft, but a little light, way more towards the skills. But again, you got 5 out of 8 that contributed reps. DT, DE, got the cornerbacks, receiver, and safety. So they were really going for the secondary on that one. But when you lay it all out, you can see almost every year they're getting a D tackle, DE, or O line. And I think there's very few, 1 or 2 seasons they didn't grab an O lineman, maybe 1. So you're seeing a clear trend. I'll give you 1 more, and then we'll do the Dolphins. We'll do a deep dive into the Dolphins. So here's the Ravens, another good franchise. This season, really good draft. They got, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 out of 8 are starting. A little bit more to the skills. OL, DE, and center. You got a lot of DBs in this one. But then you go to last year, Zay Flowers, really good pick. They got 5 out of 7 to contribute real reps. LB, DE, OL, OL. So that was 4 out of 6. Then next draft before that, another good one. It's kind of like I'm repetitious over here, repeating myself. Hamilton, Lindenbaum, Likely. These are a bunch of good players. OL, LB, DT, T, tight end, and tight end. A lot of picks, and 5 out of the 9 went to trench or trench extension. Another 2021, 5 out of 7, substantial reps, DE, OL, OL, and FB. A Little still towards slanted because the FB is a little bit of skill, little bit. So I would say that would be a skill draft. Come back, do that. 2020, everyone, not saying all great, but they contributed reps and a lot of picks. Look at this, man. That's a lot of picks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That could be us. That could be us. LB, DT, LB, TG, DT. So 4, 5, 6 out of the 10 were trench or trench extension. Year before that, 5 out of year 7, 8. They got good reps, a couple good picks in there. Marquise Brown, Ben Powers, pretty darn good. He's moved on, I believe. But D, E, G, DT, and QB. And that was after, you got, that's after you got Jackson. And go next season, the previous season. Look at all those picks again. Notice how many picks they got. They do a great job. You got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I counted wrong. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. So out of the 12, 10 out of those 12 contributed reps. That is like a superstar draft, even though all those guys aren't good. I mean, that's getting a lot of stuff out of it. Tight end, QB, did a pretty good job on that QB late. Tackle, tight end, LB, tackle, center, DE. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was a little bit of a skill lean. You had a quarterback, cornerback, 2 wide receivers, but still heavy on the trenches. Year before that, 17, they get 5 out of 7 to contribute. A linebacker, DE, linebacker, 2 guards. And last year, the last one we'll go through is 2016. Judon, Stanley. I mean, that's a good draft. Tackle, DE, tackle, D-tackle, DE. So 5, 6, 6 out of the 11. Another heavy trench draft. And you go to the top teams, you see 2 things. They keep shooting at quarterbacks, even when they get one. They're heavy on defensive players, heavy on trenches. They usually got a bunch of picks. Not always. KC was a little short on them. Some years good, some years bad. But on most of those picks are hit. And even the 6, 7, and they're finding offensive linemen. They're finding players, good players like VG, who we didn't want. Now let's take a look at the Dolphins. Drum roll, please. I'll dig into this a little bit, a little deeper. So this year, I thought it was a pretty good one. Jalen Wright, he's a good player, but he didn't get substantial reps. I couldn't put him up. He should have. So it could have been a much better looking draft. McMorris, I kind of like him. Taj Wade. This was a good draft. Maybe not a great. I would have taken Sweat over Robinson, but Robinson's a good player. I mean, maybe we could have done something different. Maybe we could have got a different play here or there. But this is a pretty solid draft. But still, 3 trench guys, RB, wide receiver, DB. It was still skill heavy. But still, I liked it. If this was like the anomaly and you added more drafts like that, just think what we could look like. But then you go to the year before that. Achane's the only one, substantial reps, and 1 OL. Higgins is getting some with the Cardinals. We lost him. 1 player out of 3. Year before that, we got the LB, Tyndall, but we picked the wrong one. Noah LB and Cameron Good, pretty good, backup kind of guy. And Skylar Thompson, I put him there, backup, but we don't really like him. He's gone. So, there's some context to this. But we're in 3 drafts now already. And remember, some of those picks left for other players, whether it be Waddle or Hill. So this is a little even more towards the skills when you look. I mean, you could add Chubb in there, I guess. But then you add Ramsey. Then 21, you got 4 out of 7. Not bad. Except Eichenberg got a -4 out of that, right? Because he should have been starting. But Waddle, Phillips, and Howland, solid players. You got a DLOLTE, but the T was a very bad pick. And then Coleman was a T. Nice shot, but that's not a bad layout. 20, Tua, Jackson, Hunt, Davis, Jones, Ferguson. That's a pretty good draft when you look at it, loosely. Tackle, guard, defensive tackle, guard, 2 DNs. So there was a nice distribution. It was leaning towards the physical. The problem is Jackson was way overdrafted. He's not that good. Hunt was way above what we should have got him. So that was a big win. Davis, I would like to have seen what he could. Without that knee injury, he could have been a lot better. But yeah, Brandon Jones, a good player. But Solomon Kinley, 2/4. So while you're seeing some good stuff, there's these screw-ups that's tearing it down. Strobridge and Weaver were like, they were gone instantly. Like, I don't even think they even showed up to camp or something. It was crazy. And Ferguson, one of your guys, is a long snapper. So it's like, it's kind of like, it looks, but sort of not really. And then, when people talk about too, his injury history and then not, whatever. So sort of good, but, sort of Greery. But then you go 19, you got Wilkinson and Van Ginkel, two guys that really started. Gaskin had some really good reps the first year, but then he was kind of moved off. Chandler Cox was out. Isaiah Prince, nothing really. Dieter, he got some run with us, but I can't put him up there. He was terrible. He is terrible. But not in bad distribution. One defensive tackle, guard, LB, and tackle. So the thought process was right. Wilkins was a great pick. Van Ginkel was a great pick. Both are in here, and so there's a little bit of mitigation there. But Dieter was a very bad pick. And Isaiah Prince is a good role. So, it looks, but, not really. So then the next year, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 9. That was pretty good. Pretty good. Minka, though, he played 1 year. He was gone. Mike Gesicki had 1 good year and didn't work with the quarterbacks. He disappeared for years. Durham Smythe, he's been here forever. I don't know why. Baker was great for floors, not so great in yellow stuff. Good. Sanders, he's been hit and miss, but this year was pretty hit. Rest of the guys, nothing. But tight end, linebacker, tight end. So it wasn't the trenches, it was the extension. So it was sort of nice. And there was some misses in there and some screw-ups about not keeping Minka, not using Gesicki right, and then double dipping on Durham Smythe when there was no reason for it. So, Then 17, going to this, Charles Harris over Watt. But you got LB, guard, defensive tackle. And initially, Godchow and Vincent Taylor had some good seasons, but Taylor got injured. Godchow kind of sucked, but it was nice concept there. But Isiata was not a good player. Tankersley had like 3 good games. I was like, whoa, and he disappeared. Like another weird draft of the Dolphins. Isaiah Ford in and out. I kind of liked him, but he was, a good back-end guy. Charles Harris, oh, Lord. But good idea, good idea. Raekwon McMillan, I don't know why you were drafting a linebacker from the 80s for that era, but, concept-wise, application, 2 divergent roads. And then last, 2006, Laramie Tunsil, you got tackle, tight end, and quarterback. The rest was cornerback, running back, receivers, and safety. Leonte Carew, 2 third-round picks, disaster. Drake never really materialized. Jakeem Grant was a nice pick, and he did some stuff for us. But the rest of the guys, not so good. Xavier Howard, great pick. Tunsil, great pick. But we moved off and we got the picks and we kind of saw what we did with them. So there was some really nice hits in there. The concept wasn't so good. And overall, it really was, you would love to have Hunts on your team and Howard and the rest. You could say, screw it. But you lost Tunsil with the picks and it didn't do well. Howard was really great for a couple seasons and injured a lot. Still a great player. But you could see how we don't really get a lot of our players playing. We have limited amount of picks. And the overall philosophy is towards skill and finesse. And that starts to back to what I've been saying for a while when I keep going over the trenches. These are tried and true principles. These are realities. And, in 21, people like, you're an idiot. 22, McDee with Hill and Waddle, they don't need an offensive line. You're an idiot. And 23, you're an idiot. And halfway through the year, well, maybe not so much. Maybe we need more physicality. No, it's not bad. We got Barry, we trust. I'm sorry, Eichenberg. I'm sorry, Jackson. We could do it. We got the guys. Brew's going to pull it off. And then by the end of 24, everyone's like, I think we need to be more physical. Grier sucks. And we're not building right. And we're not building through the draft. Remember, you can get, Billy Bob Joe and his wife Sue on cheap and fill your roster and you're a genius. Then in a year, you're not. So I think Grier is going to have to eat the past. He's going to have to eat some of his resume. He's going to have to eat crow. Now, he might not do it public. He won't. He's too prideful, too weak. But the hope is he goes to the background and he says, I totally screwed up. I'm not going to admit it, but let's do this, this, and this. So you'll see who he picks. And I'm not saying every pick's got to be offensive line, but you need DT, you need tight end, you need offensive line. You really don't need too many of these skills right away, because what you want to do, and you can see with these teams, they build the trenches, and they start shooting at these quarterbacks, and then they hit on one, and then they start building the rest of the stuff, the skill. I mean, if they find a good skill player along the way, they take them for good value, but they're not spending whole drafts on Hill. They're not spending 2 first rounds on Waddle. They're filling up these trenches, building their philosophy around physical play, and then being smart and collecting picks and not just squandering them and throwing them away. So I think we can see right off the bat, is Grier seeing things right by who the positions he picks? It's going to take a while to flesh out, were these guys right, were these guys wrong? But if you see 1 or 2 offensive line, 1 offensive line, 1 D tackle, and the rest skills, I would be highly concerned. So I hope you enjoyed. Dundee Dolphin, thank you, brother. You're a very good guy. It was a great study. I had so much more, but it would have gone on forever. So, Curtis saying, be well, go Fins, please Grier, don't Grier. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.